In small houses, rooms remember. They remember the texture of disappointment, the temperature of silence, the weight of words spoken too casually but felt too deeply. This living room, two worn couches, a slightly crooked family portrait, a television broadcasting outdated commercials, has witnessed more emotional history than the people sitting in it ever will. This is Unclaimed, and I'm your host, Mata Prasad Chaubey. And tonight, we enter a room that has raised more men than their fathers ever did. It learned early that praise was a rare visitor, arriving only when the child produced acceptable proof. Grades, obedience, silence. Real affection was treated like a luxury item. The child, small and bright, began to understand the rule: be perfect or be invisible. And the invisibility is the most suffocating host a house can hold. A fan kept turning, the lights kept flickering, and quietly the child practiced becoming what the room applauded: sarcastic when threatened, loud when insecure, dismissive when afraid. As he grew older, his body changed, but his emotional landscape stayed exactly the same size. When kids at school mocked him, he did what he had seen his home teach him. He swallowed the hurt, wrapped it in anger, and threw it outwards as cruelty. I remember the moment it started working for him. A classmate had shown up wearing a hand-me-down shoes. Obvious, uncomfortable, visible poverty. The boy made a joke, a cutting one, the kind designed to redirect everyone's attention away from his own insecurities. The class laughed, and in that laughter, he felt something he had never felt before. Not joy, relief. As if he had finally found a way to stop feeling small. He began collecting small victories, the kind you get from making others feel smaller. It felt like winning. It wasn't. It was camouflage. He thought dominance meant confidence. He thought loudness meant clarity. He thought clever insults meant strength. And every time he used these tactics, the living room offered its silent approval. In that silence, he learned the most dangerous lesson. If you cannot feel safe, feel superior. Years later, the boy, now a man, came home after something broke inside him online. Someone had shared something unguarded in a public thread. Something raw, a confession about struggling with self-worth. He had mocked it, made a joke, added a sarcastic emoji. The replies came fast, but not with anger, with pity. That was worse. He stepped into the living room. Same fan, same furniture, same walls, but suddenly the space felt tighter, heavier, as if it had been waiting to show him something. Unresolved childhood emotions do not vanish. They gather like dust in corners until one day they form a shape. As he sat on the couch, old sensations resurfaced. The pressure behind his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the familiar heat of humiliation. This is the kind of horror no ghost movie can match. This is psychological haunting. Being confronted by every version of yourself you abandoned. The room didn't show him spirits. It showed him truth. He had been surviving on borrowed defenses his entire life. That night, he stood in front of the mirror, not to fix his appearance, but to observe the expression he had mastered over the years. The look of a man who feels nothing. He repeated some of the lines. he often used in arguments, out loud, to himself. In that quiet room, his own words sounded artificial, rehearsed, almost childish. He realized that most of his personality was not built, it was inherited, crafted by expectations of others, shaped by fear, not choice. It is a peculiar horror discovering that you have become the kind of person you once feared, and worse, the kind of person who once frightened you as a child. He saw, with a clarity he had never allowed himself. He wasn't angry because others were wrong. He was angry because he never learned how to be unguarded. The living room had raised a roar, a loud, brittle, defensive roar that crumbled when challenged. But a roar can be unlearned. And here's the truth we really like to admit. We don't just raise children, we raise their future relationships. We raise their future anger. We raise their future empathy. Or their future wounds. So if you want to stop creating men who hide behind sarcasm, superiority, or emotional shutdown, begin where the last generation stopped. Love them without making them earn it. Children who feel unconditionally valued don't grow into adults desperate for validation. Teach them the vocabulary of emotions. A man who can say I'm hurt never has to hide behind I'm angry. Apologize in front of them. Strength is demonstrated by accountability, not dominance. Stop comparing them. Comparison does not create excellence, it creates insecurity. And most importantly, let them fail. Failure is the only teacher that builds real confidence. Protection builds fragility. This story wasn't about one boy or one house. It was about a cycle, quiet, common, generational. I know the story because I've sat in living rooms like this. I've been the child who learned to perform. I've been the man who had to unlearn it. Maybe you have too. The question isn't whether the room shaped you, it's whether you let it shape what comes next. If we don't interrupt this cycle, we will continue raising men who roar loudly but shake inside. Men who confuse their fear with authority. Men who cannot distinguish affection from attention. If you want to raise someone different, someone whole, someone human, begin with gentleness. Gentleness is not weakness. Volume is not strength. And healing is not optional. Break the cycle, and the living room will stop raising echoes. It will start raising adults. This was Unclaimed, and I'm your host, Prasad Chaubey, signing off. Be aware of loud rooms. The quiet ones are always telling the truth.